Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that affects pretty much every project out there, managing the money. We're going to look at two totally different ways to handle it, framing it as a face-off between the meticulous architect and the adaptable explorer. So let's kick things off with the one question that probably keeps a lot of project managers and stakeholders up at night. I mean, it happens in every industry, right? From building skyscrapers to launching an app. What is the real reason so many projects just completely blow their budgets? Well, when you boil it all down, it comes back to one core discipline: project cost management. And this isn't just about counting pennies. It's the whole shebang: planning, estimating, and, actually controlling the costs from the very beginning to the very end. Because here's the hard truth. Without a really solid handle on your costs, even the most brilliant idea with the most talented team is seriously at risk of failing. It's not just boring accounting, it's the financial foundation you're building everything on. Okay, so if that's the problem, how do we get a handle on it? Well, a lot of it comes down to the approach you take from the very start. We can think about this by looking at two really distinct mindsets: the traditional architect and the more agile explorer. And this, right here, changes the whole conversation. The architect's approach, it's perfect when you know exactly what you're building. Like a bridge, you need that detailed blueprint. But the explorer, they thrive when things are uncertain, like launching a brand new app. The goal isn't just to build, it's to discover. So it's not about which one is better. It's about picking the right tool for the job. This huge difference in mindset completely changes how each one even thinks about estimating the work. So let's dive into the pretty unique language the explorer uses to figure out the size of their journey. Okay, so instead of getting bogged down in those endless arguments about whether a task will take 8 hours or 12 hours, the explorer's team uses something called story points. It's a really clever way to agree on how big a task is relative to another one, and it bakes in all the tricky stuff, like complexity and just plain old uncertainty. So here's how it works in practice. The team just picks a really simple, well-understood task, like a login feature, and calls it a 3. Then, for every other task, they just ask, hey, how big is this compared to the login? An add to cart feature? Maybe twice as complex. Let's call it a 5. And a big, hairy payment integration? Oh, that's way harder. Let's call that a 13. The beauty of this is its speed. You get a shared understanding of effort without wasting time arguing about hours. So if story points measure the size of the work, that's only half the equation, right? The next obvious question is, how much work can our team actually get done in, say, 2 weeks? And that's where velocity comes in. It's just a simple average of how many points the team knocked out in their last few work cycles. It gives you a reliable, proven measure of the team's actual speed. And this right here is the key that unlocks the whole forecasting puzzle for the explorer. It's a beautifully simple analogy, isn't it? If your whole project is, say, 280 story points, that's the total distance you have to travel, and your team's velocity, their speed, is 28 points per work cycle, well, then you can predict it's going to take you 10 cycles to get to your destination. Simple as that. Okay, using points to forecast a timeline makes a lot of sense, but here's the million-dollar question. Literally, how does this translate into actual dollars? How do you build a budget when you're not even tracking hours? Well, the process is actually surprisingly straightforward. You basically just connect the dots between the fixed, predictable cost of your team's time and their proven, data-driven output in story points. From there, you can build a really reliable financial forecast. So, first step, you figure out the total all-in cost of your team for a single work cycle, or a sprint. So in this example, let's say we have a team of 7 people, and for 2 weeks, their fully loaded cost is a fixed $28,000. Next up, you just do some simple division. You take that fixed sprint cost, the $28,000, and you divide it by the team's velocity. So if the team completes an average of 28 points per sprint, then each and every story point has a derived cost of $1,000. And just like that, you've got a data-driven forecast for the entire project. You take the total size of the work in points, multiply it by your cost per point, and bam, you have your high-level budget. Now, here's the real game changer with this approach. It completely flips the script on how projects get funded. Instead of one massive upfront approval, you fund the project in smaller chunks. You let the team work for a couple of sprints, you look at the actual value they delivered, and then you decide if you want to fund the next piece of the journey. It becomes an ongoing conversation about value. So the explorer has their compass with story points, and they know their speed with velocity. But once they're on the journey, how do they check their position on the map? How do they answer that classic question, are we there yet? Well, for that, we can borrow some really powerful tracking tools. To figure this out, we can use a few simple but really powerful ideas from a system called Earned Value Management. It sounds kind of fancy, but all it does is help us answer 3 basic questions. 1, how much work did we plan to have done by now? 2, how much work did we actually get done? And 3, how much money did we actually spend to do it? Now, when you put those numbers together, you get these fantastic indicators. The first one is the Cost Performance Index, or CPI. All it's asking is, are we getting good value for our money? In this case, our CPI is below 1, which tells us we're over budget. For every single dollar we've spent, we've only generated about 89 cents worth of the value we planned to. Not great. And the second key indicator is the Schedule Performance Index, or SPI. This one tells us, pretty simply, are we on time? And again, since that number is below 1, it's a red flag. It shows we're behind schedule. You see, together, CPI and SPI acts like this incredible early warning system. They let the team know it's time to make a change and get back on course before it's way too late. So when you step back, you see we've got 2 very different, but also very powerful ways to manage project costs. You have the detailed, precise blueprint of the architect, and you have the flexible, adaptable roadmap of the explorer. And the real key takeaway here is that neither one of these is always better than the other. The right choice depends completely on what your project looks like. If your requirements are crystal clear and they're not going to change, like building a bridge, then absolutely you want the architect's approach. But if your requirements are fuzzy and the main goal is to discover the best possible solution, like launching a new app, then the explorer's flexibility is exactly what you need to succeed. So, I guess that's the question to leave you with. As you think about your next big idea, what does it really need? Do you need the certainty of an architect holding a perfect blueprint, or do you need the adaptability of an explorer holding a reliable compass? Because choosing that right path from the very beginning, well, that's the real key to reaching your destination on time and on budget.